The Culling game has reached its atmospheric peak. In our previous parts, we witnessed the birth of a new era in the Tokyo colonies and the chaotic conceptual deadlock of the Sendai veterans. Now, we transition to the endgame, where the game elements, the points, the barriers, and the rules, fade into the background. They are replaced by the sheer, terrifying will of the ancient masters. These aren't just fights. They are the final barriers between the world as we know it and the total merger Kenjaku has planned. We are analyzing the final 4 major sequences of the arc, where the stakes move from points and rules to the very survival of the soul. The weight of virtual mass, Yuki Tsukumo versus Kenjaku. The battle at the Star Corridor is a masterclass in high-concept Jujutsu, pitting the series' most mysterious special grade against the ultimate mastermind. Yuki Tsukumo reveals her technique, Star Rage, Bamba Ye, which allows her to add virtual mass to herself and her Shikigami, Garuda. This is mechanically distinct from actual mass. It doesn't increase her size or slow her down. Instead, it makes her movements carry the momentum of a mountain. The sequence begins with Yuki striking Kenjaku with such overwhelming force that it ignores the concepts of defense, shattering Kenjaku's reinforced arms. Because the mass is virtual, it doesn't affect the structural integrity of the floor until the moment of impact, making her strikes unpredictable. Kenjaku counters with the special grade curse Ganesha, which is supposed to remove obstacles through conceptual interference. However, Yuki's virtual mass is so immense that it overcomes the definitions of the curse's technique. She literally becomes an obstacle too heavy for the concept of removal to understand. The fight reaches a fever pitch when Kenjaku uses an open barrier domain, Womb Profusion. Since there is no outer shell for Yuki to break from the inside, her simple domain is stripped away in seconds by the guaranteed hit effect. The choreography concludes with a final, desperate move. Yuki increases her mass to the point of no return, turning her own body into a black hole. The only reason the world isn't destroyed is Kenjaku's use of the anti-gravity system, a technique he inherited from Kaori Itadori, which he used to stabilize his own body at the epicenter. This fight proves that at the special grade level, battles are won by who can better manipulate the laws of physics. The Executioner's Blade. Hiromi Higuruma and Yuji Itadori versus Sukuna. Following the bath and Sukuna's total takeover of Megami's body, the remaining sorcerers launch a coordinated assault to stop the King of Curses. The core of this sequence is the return of the genius attorney Hiromi Higuruma. He expands his domain, Deadly Sentencing, targeting Sukuna for his crimes in Shibuya. In a brilliant mechanical twist, Sukuna doesn't defend himself or try to use a hollow wicker basket. He is genuinely fascinated by the legal logic. He allows the trial to proceed, leading to a guilty verdict. The domain sentences Sukuna to death and grants Higuruma the Executioner's Sword, a glowing blade that kills anyone it touches instantly, without exception. The fight that follows is a frantic, high-speed chase. Yuji and Higuruma attempt to land even a single scratch on Sukuna while dodging dismantle slashes that fly through the air like invisible guillotines. The choreography shows Sukuna's absolute mastery. Even with his Kamutoke, cursed tool, confiscated by the domain's rules, his raw physical prowess allows him to outpace both sorcerers. He treats the fight like a lesson, mocking Higuruma's talent. The sequence ends in tragedy as Higuruma is cut down, but in a final act of defiance, he passes the fading Executioner's Sword to Yuji. The manga highlights the crushing reality of the gap in their power. Yuji strikes Sukuna's back with the blade, but Sukuna had already cut a piece of his own clothing or flesh away to avoid the contact, making the one-shot weapon useless. The Liquid Metal and the Perfect Sphere, Sukuna versus Yorozu. Taking place in the Sendai colony, this fight is Sukuna's way of testing the output of Megami's body, while crushing Megami's spirit by killing his sister, Tsumiki, who is possessed by the Heian sorcerer Yorozu. Yorozu utilizes the construction technique to create liquid metal, a substance she can manipulate into any shape with perfect efficiency. The sequence is visually striking, with the metal shifting into semi-autonomous armor and high-speed whips that track Sukuna's movements. Yorozu's ultimate move is the creation of a perfect sphere, a conceptual object with infinite pressure because it has zero contact area. In theory, this object can erase anything it touches. However, the deep analysis of this fight lies in Sukuna's hidden strategy. Throughout the battle, he doesn't use his own cleave or dismantle. Instead, he uses the 10 shadows. We see the wheel of Mahoraga spinning above Sukuna's head, hidden in the shadows. Sukuna was intentionally taking hits from the liquid metal to allow Mahoraga to recognize the composition of Yorozu's cursed energy. Just as Yorozu expands her domain to guarantee the sphere's hit, Sukuna summons the already adapted Mahoraga. The Shikigami shatters the perfect sphere with a single blow because it had already adapted to the concept of Yorozu's construction. This sequence proves that Sukuna is the most dangerous player in the game, not just because of his power, but because he can weaponize the very process of adaptation against his enemies. The comedian's reality, Fumihiko Takaba versus Kenjaku. In perhaps the most surreal and mechanically unique sequence in manga history, the failed comedian Fumihiko Takaba confronts Kenjaku. Takaba's technique, comedian, allows him to manifest anything he thinks is funny into reality. The fight moves away from physical blows and becomes a battle of performance art and psychological endurance. The choreography includes Takaba and Kenjaku engaging in a manzai comedy routine, racing in imaginary cars, and dressing up as nurses in a mock hospital. The mechanics here are absolute. As long as Takaba finds a situation funny, he is effectively invulnerable. He ignores Kenjaku's special grade curses and gravity manipulation because, in his mind, they aren't funny. Kenjaku, a millennial-old genius who prides himself on logic and planning, realizes he cannot win through Jujutsu. Kenjaku is forced to engage in the comedy to disrupt Takaba's confidence. He uses his vast knowledge of history and culture to match Takaba's jokes, eventually winning by satisfying Takaba's soul with the perfect stage. This sequence is a battle of imagination versus logic. It ends with Takaba lying content on the ground, but because his technique forced Kenjaku to focus entirely on the performance, Kenjaku's guard was finally dropped. This allowed Yuta Okotsu to move in for a lightning-fast sneak attack, decapitating the mastermind. It is the only fight in the series where the victor is determined by humor, yet it saved the world from the merger. Part 3 brings us to the end of the Culling game's structural timeline. We've seen the heaviest hitters in the series, Yuki, Kenjaku, Yorozu, and Sukuna, redefine what it means to be a sorcerer. From the crushing mass of a black hole to the reality-warping power of a good joke, the Culling game proved that the strongest isn't just the one with the most power, but the one who can best impose their will on the world. The stage is now set for the final showdown.